Greetings everyone, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, here to bring you another episode review from Season 5 of The Loud House. Today's episode is titled Fam Scam. First we'll discuss the plot, and then my thoughts and critiques with my final score. So, let's get right into it. The episode begins with Lola wanting to make a good first impression with an international pageant legend named Cricket. However, she worries Cricket will be turned off by the rest of her family, so she tries impersonating herself as a member of Clyde's family. She tries to avoid being recognized by her real family at the mall, but her charade comes to an end when the McBrides reveal they're not Lola's parents. She gets a second chance to put things right and makes it up to Cricket by introducing her to the real Loud House, to which Cricket loves what she sees. Well, that concludes the plot of the episode, so now we come to my thoughts and critiques. To be honest, this is one of the more uninteresting and overly predictable Lola episodes of the series, at least in terms of the story being told. The plot is very basic. A character wants to impress someone to gain favor with them, and they have to lie and hide what's really going on in their personal life, only to be found out when everything becomes too much to handle. This was like the Lola version of right and wrong, so what we were given is a repeat of the same conflict with only a few distinct plot differences, and that it wasn't as good as the one starring Rita, but that's just my opinion. At least Rita tried to pass her own family off as perfect, while Lola pretended she was adopted by more relatively normal people. Rita's successful act of deception had its long-term benefits for her, the kids, and the readers of her column, while Lola's deception was only to the benefit of her, and she tried way too hard to keep the lies going. Both instances are selfish, but when it comes to having good intentions, the latter case doesn't have the ends justifying the means the way the former did. This episode also reminded me of that one Hey Arnold episode where Sid wants to use Arnold's room as a way of impressing their classmate Lorenzo, since Sid has a room that's not as cool as Lorenzo's and thinks Arnold's room would make him look cool. That's pretty much what Lola did in this episode, from putting her trophies on the shelf in the McBride house to slapping her face on family photos. I know this is the kind of storyline that other Nicktoons have done in the past, but I never liked the idea of television writers going for the same conflict twice on the same show, no matter how different or similar it is to the first one they wrote. I can't say this Loud House episode is bad, but compared to Right and Wrong, this one is not as enticing, and it does lack a lot of originality and creativity. Hey Arnold repeats this type of conflict towards the end of the series with Mr. Wynn in the episode Family Man, and let's just say his charade falls apart a lot faster than Sid's because the boss at the restaurant is more skeptical than Lorenzo. Anyway, enough sidetracking, let's get back to talking about the Loud House characters. First, there's Lola. In her defense, her family isn't exactly the most normal set of people, although I do say that as nicely as I can. And yet, I can understand why someone like Lola would feel embarrassed to show others what really goes on inside her house. In episodes like Community Disservice, Lola does prop herself up very high, and if you didn't know any better, you'd think she comes from a rich family and does a lot of traveling like she tried to persuade Cricket into believing. After all, she's very admired by everyone in her class as we've seen in past episodes, and she likes to have a certain image. Speaking of images, while I'm willing to forgive the act of mistaking Lana for Lola, I really didn't care for Cricket and even Howard McBride being completely oblivious to the fact Lola's face was merely cut from other pictures and taped over the family photos. I mean, the white outlines of the cutouts are right there. Lola has proven to be way craftier than that in the past. Remember when she was an expert at photo retouching and selfie improvement? Apparently, she's not anymore, so what gives? Like I said, this really wasn't one of Lola's strongest performances of Season 5, though there is one thing that does save this episode from being much worse. I know she didn't have any big moments, but I really liked Cricket. She comes from a rich family and doesn't act like a snob about it, presents herself as very sophisticated and culturally well-rounded, and yet that's all Lola assumed her life was about. To be fair, if that's the public reputation everyone knows, I can see why someone like Cricket would have to keep up appearances, and maybe why others would try to impress her by trying to be on her level. However, just because she has a professional image, it doesn't mean she can't have a more free-spirited side. She had the opposite reaction to what Lola thought she'd have when meeting the real Loud family, to which she said they looked fun. She confesses that when it comes to being prim and proper all the time when she's with her own family, it's fun to cut loose once in a while and be a bit more spontaneous. this. She even likes Lana's snake, so she's not as girly as Lola assumed. I wish we could have seen more to what she was talking about. Maybe confide within Lola how being a world-famous pageant girl isn't as easy as it looks, and sometimes wishing to have a bit more freedom. But still, I can't complain about her in the grand scheme of things. One last note to consider. Before anyone questions why Lola would be ashamed of introducing Cricket to her family when she had no problem doing that in the episode Frenzy, keep in mind what the conditions were for bringing her friends into the house in the first place. That's all I'm going to say. Overall, this episode is just Right and Wrong 2.0, in which the lesson is you don't have to lie to get people to like you. This isn't a bad episode by any means, but it's a conflict we've already seen with Rita, and it doesn't do much to make itself stand out from the same and objectively better plot one season earlier. This one here is not as engaging or originally creative. It doesn't really do much for Lola besides playing to the usual vanity side of her personality, and when you realize a minor character like Cricket had a more intriguing moment of development than the main star, well, hopefully you see where I'm going with this. In short, it's just another episode with a recycled conflict from a previous season, and that's the best way of putting it without being too negative. With that said, I give Fam Scam a 7 out of 10. Well folks, that concludes my review of Fam Scam. Always remember that you never need to make the same episode twice. Only do so if you believe the first one didn't turn out as good as you had hoped. I don't know where the writers could have gone wrong with the Rita episode that they had to do it again with Lola, but at this point, it's anyone's guess. So what did you guys think of it? Love it? Hate it? Something you would add? Change? Keep it as it is? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe to this channel for the latest Loud House content. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys for the next video, but until then, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, signing off. Peace out, home slices.